On page 280, you have some of the library books would have a stamp on the edge of the pages. Would you have the library? Would have it, are you allowed to open or close on Shabbos? So you are permitted to open and close it. It's considered as there already. You're just attaching that which is there. You're not creating anything new. So that would be permissible. There are two opinions about it. The Alter Rebbe says that one could rely on the lenient opinion. The one who wants to be strict about it may be strict, but again, it is something that is permissible. Blocks, you have the blocks that have letters on them, children's blocks. Are you allowed to put them next to each other and make words?
Yeah.
And the reason is, it is permissible because it's temporary, also not only temporary, but also it's not, each one has their own frame. The fact that they have their own frame, that makes it separate than the others. It's not combining them. However, if you do have magnet letters without a frame, for instance, you're putting it on the refrigerator, here you are actually writing. Because they do not have their, if it has it, let's say if it's something that's like with the felt back, you have Velcro, you have some face starts, that the letters have the Velcro on the back, but they all have their own little frame. So that too would be permissible, would be the same as blocks, because they have their own steps. So it's not really combining one with the other, each one is independent. However, when you have the letters without a block, and putting it on magnets, let's say if you put it on the refrigerator, that would be considered, that would not be permissible, because each letter does not have its own frame, and therefore putting them next to each other would be considered writing. You have here concerning about Scrabble. The Scrabble is, each letter has its own frame. However, the way Scrabble is usually played, how is Scrabble played? When you play it during the weekdays, how do you play Scrabble? You have a little paper, and you write down scores. That should not be played on Shabbos, because the way it's normally played is writing is done to keep scores.
You can't play without keeping score?
If you don't keep score, you're not keeping score, and you're just playing the game. But usually, I'm just saying that it is a game that scores kept, so let's be aware of that.
You keep scoring your head.
You should know, once it's something that normally is written down, then you do not do it that way. You also have the puzzles that have little that come to the frame. You have numbers or letters, and you keep that. So each letter has its own frame. So that too would be permissible. And then you could, but it's only one. Each one has it, just like you take blocks, you can put one next to the other and make words. It's something that also be when you are having that game that has a frame. Each letter has its own little frame. You're just mixing them around, and that would also be permissible. Puzzles should not be played. You are actually putting it together. Some people will leave it there permanently as well. So especially a 1,000-piece puzzle, once you make it, you're not going to do something too quickly. So puzzles are not encouraged for Shabbos. But think about children now. Children, again, they have the ones that are so again, if it comes in a frame, you're putting it together, you're making it into a frame, that would not be permissible at all. But without a frame, there are different opinions about it, it's not encouraged.
But if you don't put velocity,
No, but it's still, you have all the other, everything else is also being made, houses, whatever it is, before you come to the very last one. Now, there are people who could make, on page 281, there are people who are very skilled in taking fruits and vegetables and making them into flowers and other shapes. That would be like making a sculpture. Making a sculpture would go into this category. That could not be done. You have people who are able to make from a watermelon, you're able to make a swan. What else do they do with these? No, that cannot be done. Page 282, working with shoes that have a stamp and a shape. If you walk on the sand, so that would be permissible because it's not something that is permanent. Number two, it's not intentional, and therefore you want to walk. That's your intention, so they would not make any prohibition. Opening a combination lock would be permissible. Measuring or at with or weighing or with a tool is forbidden rabbinically. That's usually done as a part of business. So when would it be permissible? When could you measure? Permissible way of measuring? Under what circumstances? Anyone? When would be permissible to measure? Okay, so now we're speaking now, you have a measuring cup, want it to be exact. You have a measuring spoon. So what you would not do is if you measure with precise amount of how much spices you're going to put in, how much salt you're going to put in, you would not use a measuring spoon for that. However, if someone has to take a dose of medicine, that is permissible. That's permissible because that again is for illness. Now there's also, what about using to measure one's temperature? You have three different types of thermometers. You have the mercury, you have the stick, that letters show up, then you have the digital. Of the three, which is our first choice? The mercury, the measuring one that has the letters that come up, and the digital. Digital is out, so that cannot be used. Mercury would be number one. So one could shake it down if it is already up and you want to take the temperature. Again, you could shake it down. You could take the temperature. After that, you should not shake it down if you do not need it again for Shabbos. With the one why would it be permissible to put the one that the strip when you put it on the forehead and the numbers come up? Again, there is only temporary, it's not permanent. And therefore, it's rabbinic, but it would be rabbinical because of illness, then it would be suspended their prohibition. Page 287. That is the next one. So as it is writing, you also have Now the word mochek, you have a machek. We had a previous malacha that's called a machek, and machek was grating. It is also a form of erasing, I guess you are taking off the surface. But there are two different malachas. The machek is scraping, that would be filing down something, that would be scraping the scraping wood. Then what mochek is erasing something that was written, the specific type of malacha. So in the Mishkan, when the mochek applied, how was building a mochek in the Mishkan? Did it get against them? Anyone? Did it go against in the Mishkan? We would be writing in the Mishkan. You would be writing in the Mishkan? You get letters in the Mishkan? Where they use the letters? Anyone? When they put the Mishkan together, they wanted to be in the same order as it was the first time. So they wrote two letters on corresponding boards. Aleph went together. On the other side of the board, there was a base. Then on the other side, there's another board that had a base to it. You put together base together, together. You had the letters on the board, two letters, because one letter would not be sufficient, two letters that was meant to put together the sanctuary, to put together the building, if they get more. So therefore, Torah prohibition is being writing two letters on a permanent surface with a permanent writing. That's a Torah prohibition.
Why did it do
Because you have the boards, each one, you want to now match up the board together. As they were the first time, that is the permanent place that it was. So when they disassembled it, they had to put it together again. So you had again the Aleph, and that was now matched together. So it was two letters matching together on permanent writing and a permanent surface, and that is the malacha. So when they're erasing, one of the letters didn't come out well, you have to rewrite it. Now you erase in order to rewrite it properly. The erasing on its own is not the malacha. Erasing in order to improve, to write again, that is a Torah prohibition. Rabbinically, any erasing is forbidden. And that's the rabbinic prohibition is erasing. The Torah prohibition is erasing with intention of rewriting again what is being erased. So on page 287, you have erasing is the malacha, which is you erase something that's written on the board in order to write in their place other letters. So the Torah, which is also a Torah prohibition, would be not only with letters, but also erasing a drawing in order to write or draw in its place. Writing letters of one color on top of another is also a Torah prohibition. Rabbinic is erasing a writing that was not permanent, and erasing without the intention of writing something in its place. Both of those are rabbinic. So all of those writings that were not permanent, for instance, you have writing on dust, writing on snow, writing on condensation, writing with crumbs. So all of this should not be written. Again, erasing this is forbidden. Unless you're clearing the table and it has crumbs, you will have to leave the words that were written with the crumbs. My question, and I'm questioning this. My question just came to me as I'm speaking, and therefore I did not think it out, and I'll have to ponder on it and see if there is an issue. Again, The fact that, are you allowed to write, you're sitting by on the table, but there are a lot of dvar Torahs, and you have the crumbs in front of you, and you're playing with them, and you're now making letters with them, you're writing out dvar Torahs and things, so you cannot, that would be writing. Even though you're using the crumbs to write, that's writing. Then you're writing on sand, then you're writing on snow, condensation, dust, all of this is writing. You cannot write with the crumbs. Question I'm asking is, are you allowed to clear the crumbs? If one did write with the crumbs, is there an issue with erasing or zero? No, what you want to do is you want to clear the table. And I'm not, yeah, I have to come back on that one. I have to come back on that one. Because you're erasing. What? You're not allowed to write on food. So here again now, are you allowed to take the whipped cream? And you have a cake, and you want to write happy birthday with the whipped cream, is that considered writing? Yes, that's writing. It's rabbinic forbidden to write with the whipped cream. And the same would also be erasing that this is written with whipped cream. You have a happy birthday on your cake. Are you allowed to erase, cut into the happy birthday and cut into it? You're not allowed to, no. No. So you're not allowed to, if you have a happy birthday cake and the happy birthday was written out on this cake, it's there to show, and it's going to be eaten from a lava malta. You can cut around it. You can cut between the words, you can cut between words you can cut, but not to cut between the letters, cutting the letter or between the letters themselves where the word was formed. So happy, after happy, you could cut out happy. And then birthday, you can cut out birthday. And you can't cut out the middle of the happy or middle of the birthday. That cannot be done. So what they have here, yes?
I was gonna say, I went to, like a birthday celebration on Shabbos recently, and they have like these chocolate pieces that bakery around here will put on top of the cake, and then they're gonna write on the chocolate, and then you can lift up the entire piece of writing and cut the cake without erasing.
Very good. So what they do here in Crown Heights is it is a Shabbos birthday cake. They write it out on a piece of chocolate, that's a slab of chocolate. You write on happy birthday to so and so, and then when you're ready to eat it, you lift up the whole chocolate, and you put that in a place for the birthday person, and the rest of the cake is eaten. What they do, those who don't do it on chocolate, they will also do it on a cardboard. They will write it out, it will be like a nice cardboard, whatever colored cardboard it is. You put that also on the cake if they don't want to use the chocolate as that, and also the same idea would be to lift it up. If it was not done, you could cut around it, leave it in the center, and all around it you can cut the cake. If it just has wiggles on it, that's not considered writing, so you could, somebody cut cakes that have wiggles, you could cut between the wiggles.
So if you cut out the whole piece happy, are they allowed to eat it and then break it up and then eat it, or?
So now, we have another question.
Do they have that whole piece?
Question, yes, they have the whole piece. Can you eat a chocolate that has in it, on its word, is a chocolate bar that has words on it, or pictures on it? Biscuits that have the kedem, I think the kedem biscuits have kedem engraved on the biscuits. Can we eat the whole word in one shot? The happy, put the whole happy in your mouth. So this is something that is controversial. And the writing itself could not be eaten in one time either.
Separate it, right?
You could only to separate the words, and not to eat the word.
Well, then you can.
You can't that's it. So you can't do anything with it. So you do have an opinion in other circles when it comes to letters that are engraved in the biscuit itself. So they are being about it. That's the Mishnah Brura. Mishnah Brura says it could be done if you take the If you take the word itself in your mouth and you're going to eat it, so then you are not erasing it, you're eating it. So that would be the according to other circles, where they are lenient if you're eating the whole word, where you're not erasing the word, you're eating it.
There's no place where you be able to actually break it up, if it's a cake, and if it's happy. In that approach, you can eat the whole piece, the whole word,
The whole, I have,
but you can't, a bite of this
that's
cake.
correct, that's correct. Now, they are, it's specifically about the biscuits that it becomes a part of the biscuit, something, they do differentiate between something that is added on, like the frosting. There they are more strict about that, not to eat the frosting, because it's two separate things, it's more like writing. However, when the item is engraved in the biscuit itself, it's a part of the biscuit, it's not added to the biscuit, but it is a part of the biscuit itself, that's when they are lenient. It seems from the Alter Rebbe that he was strict about it, even if it is part of the letter itself, because he writes that when you're making matzah, some people made their own matzah, they put it into the communal oven. And when it was taken out, they wanted to eat their own matzah. So what they would do is, what about making letters on the matzah, engraving letters on the matzah, so when it comes out, you'll know this is your matzah. So the Rebbe says it's a problem because how are you going to eat it? So he makes a problem out of it. So therefore, it is. Well, the Rebbe is strict about even if it's part of the cake itself, the food itself, one should not do so. So that is the so even though tearing something, even though your intention is not to write something in its place, this itself erasing, even without intending to write something in its place, is also rabbinically prohibited, and therefore you did not tear any from the Shabbos that had on them. To tear the letters, or to erase a word. On page 289, it's permissible to carefully slice off the whole surface of the letters or each individual letter from the top of the cake. That you could do. You can cut off if they did not put it on a chocolate. Well, we do have on top. You do want to eat the cake. You can cut off the whole top.
We're just cutting off those words.
Right, but it's still intact. You didn't.
No, I
So
mean,
you
you
cut
leave
it
the rest of
together-
it for us, they just cut off those words.
Right, you cut off together with the cake itself, and that will be lifted up. What happens if it does get erased while you're doing so? So again, it's not something that is necessarily going to happen. And you just weren't just careful enough, so that would be fine if you did it, and it did break the letters, no transgression was done. It's not your intention, it's not something that is definitely going to happen. So your intention was to do something permissible, and that would be the same as walking on grass, and some grass gets uprooted, no, that is permissible to do. But we do have to, some of the challah has a sticker on it, has a label on it. You ever see those challah with the label? So again, you cut into that label, one should not, because you are cutting into the words. What you would do is you would cut the label off together with a piece of challah, so that stays intact, and you eat the rest of the challah. Yeah. I don't know if they do it anymore, but they used to also stamp the eggs.
Yeah.
Stamps of eggs. So here again, you have the hard-boiled eggs. Well, you're allowed to peel the hard-boiled eggs on Shabbos. Yes, what do you do with the shell that is muktzah? What do you do with it? You peel it over the garbage to begin with, so you will not have to handle it. If you did not do it over the garbage, another thing would be to peel it into something that has food in it, well, the remnants of food, something that's edible, so it will not be, if the plate that you're peeling it into is not going to be exclusively muktzah because it has that which is permissible in that plate as well, so then you can take that whole plate and then throw that out.
Wait, what do you, take it on?
Huh?
Fill it over a plate that has.
Has some food in it. That eventually you're going to throw the boat out, but the fact that it's an edible food, that's how you can carry the plate because of the edible food, which is more than the shell. What happens if you didn't do the either, you didn't shell it over the garbage, you didn't shell it, you shelled it, it's now on the counter. Now, what do you do? So that is how much it bothers you. Some people it doesn't bother, you leave it that way until after Shabbos. The people who it disturbs their under Shabbos, so then you would do it, you would sweep it into the garbage, doing it in an unusual way with the back of your hand. Instead of picking it up and throwing it in, you would just with the back of your hand, shove it into the so moving muktzah is forbidden if you do it with your hands in a normal way. Doing it with other parts of the body is a leniency that what one would do in such a situation where you want to remove something that is muktzah and not to actually pick it up. Any questions on this? No. You go to the next malacha, which is on 293, that is building. Oh, yeah. Okay. So where was their building in the Mishkan? So that was the whole thing. So when the Mishkan was built, it was considered a permanent building because when you built it, it was meant to remain there until Hashem was indicating that it's time to move on. There was a point where the Mishkan was standing for how many years in one place without moving? How many years? Does anyone have any idea how long the Mishkan was in one place? At this they had how many stops did they make from the time they went out of Mitzrayim until they came to Eretz Israel? How many stops were there? There were 42 stops. And where did they stay the longest? In one stop for 19 years. So you never knew how long this Mishkan was going to stand. The Torah tells us that there are times where it was only there overnight. 20, they move. So here again, each time they put it up, they did not say, well, let's take some shortcuts with it because we don't know how long it's going to remain here. But each time that they built it that it's going to be used and put their full effort into it without any shortcuts. So on page 293, the Malach is building a permanent building, starting the full structure, like they made the Mishkan, putting all the boards together, and then adding anything to a permanent building is also considered building. Even though the building is there already, but now you're making an addition to a permanent building, that itself is also building. Not only is the building itself a a part of this malacha, but preparing the ground for building is also a malacha. Leveling out the ground in order to be able to put a structure on it, that is a part of building.
What if someone else is doing work on your place that's not yours? Can they come and build on Shabbos?
No,
What if you're not there?
no. So you have there are a lot of details in this. You have a store that has on it Silverman's Pharmacy. Is the Silverman's Pharmacy allowed to be open on Shabbos? Even though you're not going to be there, you're going to.
I think
No.
it's owned by a non-Jew at that moment.
So, I guess the Silverman's sign should go on. But,
Oh, that's-
so if it is your property, then you cannot have any work done on the property that is, unless it's an emergency, like say there's something that has to do with electrical, someone can get electrocuted, there's something that has to do with the gas, or the gas leak. In those cases, it's a question of endangerment. That is because of the endangerment. But other than that, then you're not allowed to have, now, so technically, I don't know if I can get into this, but you have as follows. There are two types of workers. There is a worker is working by the hour, and there's a person who's a contractor. Two separate situations. So technically, when it comes to a contractor, you're not telling them when to do it,
That's what I'm
they're doing it for their own convenience. And therefore, this translates that you are giving your laundry, you're giving your clothes to a non-Jewish laundromat or non-Jewish cleaner. And you're not telling them that you're just giving it in on Fridays, and they're doing it whenever they're ready to do so. So then that is permissible because you're not in any way connected to it. You're giving them, you're doing it not for you on Shabbos, they're doing it for themselves on Shabbos.
But to clarify, because I've been told that they didn't have that distinguished, that I've been told, well, I guess you could, so.
So let me just go a little further as well. Now, the same thing would be also, what about mailing a letter on Friday? So they are working for you to deliver the letter that's going to be taken by car, by ship, by plane, wherever it's going to need to be delivered to whoever it's going to come to. Are you allowed to mail a letter on Friday? The answer is yes. Once you put it into the mailbox, it's up to them when they're going to mail it. They're not specifically mailing it for Shabbos. They're going to deliver it whenever they are convenient. So that would be when it comes to a contractor. However, when it comes to an hourly worker or a day worker, when you're specifically hiring them to do work for you for Shabbos, so you're not allowed to have a non-Jewish person do work for you on Shabbos that you yourself are not allowed to do. Whatever, in other words, you're having non-Jewish help, and you have there going to be there's a kiddush or whatever it is in the Chabad house, in the Chonchana, there is someone who's going to do the cleaning, the sweeping, and everything else. They have to be given instructions what they are permitted to do on Shabbos. And that would be whatever you could do, they could do. Whatever you cannot do, they cannot do.
They're not allowed to walk.
So again, so that would be something that is questionable. Are they now, if they were told, again, if they are, it wouldn't make a difference if they're doing it for their convenience or for your convenience. Because you want to be done on Shabbos, or they choose to do it on Shabbos because they want to be Saturday night, they want to be free. The difference between the two. Also, there are certain, let's say, washing the floor. There are certain type of mops that people use. Technically, one would not, but we ourselves do not do it on Shabbos, but technically it is something that's permissible on Shabbos. They could do that as well. With the sponge, and have the handle to it, that would be something that they could do. Using the sponge with a handle would be something that would be going to be permissible category that you can have a non-Jewish person doing the floor with a sponge.
What about like if you're getting an Amazon delivery and they give you a choice? It's gonna be delivered. But you're not gonna pick it up, you're not gonna bring it in, you're not gonna.
Well, you're telling them to bring it to you on Shabbos, it cannot be done.
What if it's the automatic?
So what happens with the mail that you get on Shabbos? So that's their convenience, it's not your convenience, there's delivery that they're delivering on Shabbos. So that's their choice, you're not asking them to deliver it on Shabbos. When you are asking Amazon to deliver it to you for Shabbos, then.
Look at this, it just says,
But
will be
I know, but
delivered.
that's, you know, that's what, you were given that choice and that you took, that's the choice you took.
No, it's not a choice, like you order it, and it says, arriving Saturday.
Oh, they tell you arriving Saturday.
Well, sometimes you get a choice, but sometimes.
Let me think about that.
Wait to order, but if it says will arrive Saturday, then you can wait until it will arrive. But sometimes it's just, you know, if you don't have to wait,
Let
you
let-
forget.
let me look into that, let me make a little note of that.
That's my point, but, right, but I gotta, you know, often we have so many things to do. Get them up front.
Well, the thing is, even with Prime, like, oh, I realize I need something for the next week, I try and order it on Friday and it says. Okay, it can be delivered tomorrow or it can be delivered like Wednesday and it's.
You can
What do we do?
No, you can't ask.
Okay, so let me look into that, do you have to tell them not to?
Yeah, it's like you also have to get a choice, so we're Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and you went there, I don't know, full ride. And yes, we can go back, but, you know, we're so busy, like, let's go back and.
So what the problem would be, if something is delivered, so you have another prohibition that there is a limit of how far something can travel. In the city limits. It's called Tchum Shabbos, not to have something come from outside of the Tchum Shabbos, which would be certain amount of miles. Problem is when they're delivering it, it's coming far, it's coming. So a prohibition was done with taking it from a place that is distant from where you are. So that is that's what are you allowed to have someone do that? From Shabbos itself, so, or is it something that's their convenient to get adapted? It's that's what I'm saying, so let me look into this with, there are many different issues that would be, that would be involved. You're not allowed to use it,
Right.
that's for sure, but then again, are you allowed to let them, use it?
One other question, I was, somewhere and. Your doorbell rang, which I know we're looking deeper about, but I thought it was somebody that I knew in the state. So I opened the door and it was yes. And I said, oh, you start to put it, I said, oh, just leave it out there. And he,
You put it in.
so he's not like, he said, no. No.
You put it in, you don't have to take it in, but you could put it in.
Okay, because he, I was like, to myself, it's easy to know this is what I do with this house.
But you've got, you're allowed to put it down, you're not allowed to
So
take it in.
no, like I know.
Okay.
So I'm like,
Okay.
and I have to go back to fight him.
So let me look into this, and we'll.
Now you can shut her down.
So please read ahead, the building. You'll be surprised about what is considered building. Go ahead, we'll follow up, because you put it back. No, that's it.